podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hi there, I'm Ian Brannan, host of Humans of Speedway. Welcome along if you're a new follower. If you haven't checked out all of our episodes yet, this is just a little guide to some of the stuff that's waiting for you. And of course, if you've listened to all this stuff, then good news is we've got more new episodes coming, hopefully very, very soon. So in the very first episode of Humans of Speedway, we started off with a 7-time British champion, Scott Nicholls.
There's a massive amount of pressure, so mentally, probably more than anything, you're going in there just going, oh my God. And I did struggle with that for some time in the Grand Prix as a whole, and it wasn't, I probably kind of learned a bit about the psychology side of things and how to deal with that probably a bit late on, and that was something I struggled with. I think it's easy to say it's just any other race, but it's not. It's totally not. And so yeah, for in that respect, Cardiff is something that is very enjoyable, but is the pressures and the nerves associated with it early doors were not really that enjoyable in some respects.
In the second episode, your chance to meet the man behind the mic of British and Speedway GP coverage on TV, Nigel Pearson.
I believe the Grand Prix now is a better product than any World Final. I was at Wembley in '81 when people say it's the greatest ever World Final. There was 2 good races, Ian. There was 2 good races. I've commentated on Grand Prix meetings at Cardiff, in Poland, Sweden as well, and the racing has been phenomenal. Last year at Wrocław in Poland, Kelvin and I agreed afterwards, that was one of the best Grand Prix we've ever commentated on.
In episode 3, have you ever wondered what it's like to visit a different track? Well, we spoke to somebody who's visited them all in the UK and a good number across Europe as well. Speedway author Jeff Scott.
Nowadays, the anorak of choice has to be like the Wolf Sport anorak, which I think is made from a sort of, at the time, it was probably made from a sort of synthetic material that was part of the UK space programme, in that it would keep people warm on the moon and or perhaps safe in a nuclear accident. But ultimately, these things are going to resist any sort of form of decomposition in sort of landfill, ignoring that the people wear them for years with great pride.
In the 4th episode, we looked at running a speedway club with Neil Machin, one of Britain's most prolific speedway promoters, spending over 28 years, largely the force behind Sheffield Speedway, and he'd seen many ups and downs at that club.
Going back to 94 was an absolute commercial disaster. We were still as green as grass. We hadn't got anywhere near break even. We invested in the biggest signing that Sheffield could have made it at that time, a character by the name of Sean Moran. Sean, with only a handful of meetings into the season, had a crisis of confidence. I don't believe he's ever thrown his leg over a speedway bike since. Sean did a few meetings at home, retired. We had no number 1, and we still owed, I don't know, 10 or 12,000 pounds on his transfer fee at the time. So 94 was a struggle. The same year, I transferred Rodney Calhoun from Peterborough. He did the season, halved his average and never came back. So that wasn't exactly the best investment we ever made. I'll tell you what, if you could get over 94, you could live with just about anything.
In episode 5, it's the story of Peter Oakes, an award-winning Fleet Street journalist in his day job, but a history with Speedway lasting a lifetime. Going right back to the 1950s, hear how he got involved in the sport, some of the things that he's done, not just reporting, but he's also been a promoter, he's been the PR man for many clubs, and he was also the manager and best friend of one of the sport's greatest ever riders, Ivan Major.
He insisted on having a private aeroplane, pick him up from the airport and fly him down to Exeter. He didn't always stick to that, particularly after the pilot had actually crashed a plane when Ivan wasn't in it. He also demanded that got rid of a lot of the green on the Exeter race jackets because he considered green unlucky. He never ever demanded to be at number 1. So I know some riders would do that. Was in the days, if you remember, you could ride anywhere in the team. He also had the rights to all the photographs that were image rights, you'd call them today. He was probably the first speedway rider to have image rights. That was also in his contract. You wouldn't look at them and say, oh, they're terribly outrageous, because he produced the goods.
And in episode 6, hear the amazing story of Shane Parker. Hear how he discovered his biological father, how his wife and his daughter saved his life just last year, after he suffered a cardiac arrest, but also about his career on the track as well. Over 20 years in Great Britain after he headed over in his early 20s from Australia, becoming a legend with Ipswich, Kings Lynn, Glasgow, Peterborough, and most recently with Sheffield, where he ended his career. An entertainer on the track, but also off the track as well, particularly if there was a bucket of water around.
As just putting on a show, like I said, banter, and I always had a lot of banter with Kevin Long, who was the announcer at Ipswich for quite a while. Apparently I came in from a race one day and my mechanic turned around and said to me, he goes, Jesus, that commentator just ripped into you and give you heaps. And I said, did he? And so I thought, all right, no worries. So I thought I'd grab a bucket of water and stroll out to the infield and tip the bucket of water over him, which I did. I drenched him, and he was standing there with a microphone in his hand. Anyway, I ended up getting pulled into the Ipswich office at the end of the meeting. This was after I'd rode for him, mind you. And one of the promoters at Ipswich, Mike Weston, was trying to get me banned. He wanted to get me banned because I could have electrocuted Kevin Long with a microphone in his hand. And I turned around and said to Mike, I said, what, with a 9-volt battery in it, mate? I said, you got to be kidding.
And in every episode, in addition to them telling us about their life, they also take part in our little feature called Speedway Paradise, where they choose their all-time 1 to 7s, their all-time tracks, their all-time opposition, and even changing some laws of the sport as well at the end of each episode. So be sure to check that out because there's some great content hidden there at the end as well. In the meantime, don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at Speedway Humans. Also on Facebook, just search for Humans of Speedway and keep following us for the latest info of the next episodes coming soon.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit matchup to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.